Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, Inside My Holes, where I talk openly about my struggles having borderline personality disorder, complex post-traumatic disorder, panic attacks and anxiety, depression. I talk about my narcissistic mother who brutally beat me, my schizophrenic father who was in and out of mental institutes all my life. I talk about my unethical psychologists who raped me and abused me, all the different therapies I've been in, and just about a plethora of other mental health related topics. But I only come on as a former patient of almost 20 years. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not hold a degree in psychology, so I cannot diagnose you. I cannot give you a professional opinion. And all I ask in return of you is your kindness and respect in the comments. Please be kind and respectful to me. Be kind and respectful to other people who comment. We don't need to agree on everything, but we do need to agree on showing each other respect and kindness always. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Please hit that little box that says subscribe in the lower right hand corner. That way you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. Now today's video is how I got closure when relationships ended badly. A lot of times relationships end either by one person cutting it off, someone ghosts you so you don't know what happened, or someone dies unexpectedly before you were able to repair a rift, a rupture in your relationship. Say you were upset at your mother and you got into a big fight and you hadn't spoken in months, maybe a year, and all of a sudden you get a call from your dad or your brother, and you found out your mother was in a fatal accident and died. So you had no closure, you had no time to repair that rupture. So you're left kind of like, hanging, always wondering. It is a very difficult situation to be in, and it has happened over and over again with me in relationships. I died, no, I didn't die. I'm sorry. I died a million times. Cut! Take two. My mother died when both of us were not speaking to each other. I totally cut her out of my life permanently. I hadn't spoken to her in years. And then she suddenly collapsed of heart failure. The psychologist I had a 2-year affair with, same thing with him. He collapsed of heart failure the same exact way as my mother did, but he was 62 years old. My best friend Holly, I just ghosted her. I stopped talking to her. So there was never any repair. There was never a time to repair the rupture that happened. Now, repairing the rupture doesn't mean that you go back to the person, go back to the abusive relationship. Repairing the rupture is what I did with my cousin Stephen. My cousin Stephen stole my inheritance. I had to get a lawyer and fight him at the time when both my parents died back to back. My mother and father died back to back when I was 38 years old, within 3 months of each other, okay? My father had cancer, my mother had heart failure and collapsed. They both died in the house, not at the same time though. My mother died in the house when my father was at McLean's mental health hospital because he had schizophrenia and he was psychotic and unstable. He was in a mental health locked ward. My mother died at home. I wasn't speaking to her. I had to tell my father that my mother died when he was locked up in the mental hospital. That's how he found out. He had no idea anything was wrong with her. She just collapsed. Now, at this time, my cousin, I'm an only child. My cousin was always like a brother to me. He came in, and my father gave him access to all the money in the accounts because he trusted him like a son. My father said, Stephen is like a son to me. And because he trusted him like a son and had access to the accounts, because my father was at McLean's hospital, he couldn't do, he was there for a long time, and Stephen came in and paid all the bills and everything that kept piling up. But he didn't pay all the bills. He took all the money and he gambled it all away in the Bahamas. He had private jets. He lived like a millionaire. Of course, that's another story, and I don't want to get into it because I did a video on that, and you can look everything all up. I've already done videos on that. But anyway, he stole all my inheritance, and at a time when I was already going out of my mind. I lost both my parents. I'm trying to bury both my parents. My son has traumatic brain injury. He's in the hospital. So, needless to say, I had nothing to do with Stephen. I couldn't even go to the courtroom. My husband had to go because I would have clawed him. I would have been probably locked up, myself in prison by, just seeing his face. I would have became so psychotic after what he did to my dad and me when my dad was dying of cancer. Just horrific. But anyway, 10 years went by, and they finally put him in prison, and I decided to forgive him, and it brought me peace. I went to prison, and I visited him, and I put closure on the rupture that happened. By talking to him and seeing him in prison, that brought closure to what happened to me, and that was a part of my life now that I don't feel rageful about, because I found closure in it. It wasn't repaired. The relationship wasn't repaired. I didn't become, chums with him or anything like that, but I brought closure to it, and that's very important. Bringing closure to a bad relationship doesn't mean you go back to that bad relationship where you were badly abused. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is, you come to terms with what happened. I came to terms with what happened in that relationship. I looked at the person I was in that relationship. I was too trusting with my cousin. I shouldn't have trusted my cousin. I shouldn't have I should have talked to my dad. I shouldn't have given him access to our bank accounts. I should have found out more. I should have been more involved with what was going on. It was my own stupidity for being so trustworthy. So in other words, I had to learn what type of person I was in that relationship with my cousin, so that I will not be that type of person again, because all these relationships, you'll see the same thing in other people. You will see other people who are untrustworthy, who will steal from you, who will rob from you, who will cheat on you, who will abuse you. You will see this time and again in other relationships. Unless you learned your role in that relationship, nothing will ever change, right? Because if I haven't learned, my mistake in that relationship, then I will repeat that mistake with other people other than my cousin. And the trauma will just keep going on and on. So I learned from that I was too trustworthy. I shouldn't have put my trust in my cousin. I shouldn't have given him access to the bank accounts. I should have talked to my dad about the finances, and have tried to, help my dad myself, because I wouldn't have stole money from my dad. Help my dad pay the bills. So if the situation the situation will never come up again. But I mean, if something happened to my husband, I would never give access to our bank accounts to anyone else. I would be smart enough not to do that. I wouldn't repeat that, again in another relationship. And so that's to get closure. Closure happens with yourself. You don't need the other person's permission to have closure. That's the most important thing that I want you guys to understand. I didn't need my cousin's permission to have closure with that relationship. All right? I found closure within myself, and you can find closure within yourself if a relationship ends abruptly, if there's no time to repair the relationship, if someone dies unexpectedly that you haven't talked to in years, or someone automatically ghosts you and you tried calling them, you tried connecting with them, and they're not available, they just cut you off, they haven't told you why they cut you off. I mean, this happens all the time, right? You could be dating someone for such an amount of time, you think everything is going good, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them, no calls, no texts, no emails, no nothing. You call them, you text them, and you don't get any reply, and all of a sudden you're cut off. You don't know why, you don't have any closure, you don't know what happened, and then you go on to another relationship, and guess what? The same exact thing happens, right? The same exact thing happens. You get ghosted again because you never got closure from that relationship, okay? But you could say, well, they didn't tell me. They just ghosted me. It wasn't my fault. But like I told you, you don't need the other person to get closure in the relationship. You can do this yourself, with yourself, by looking at what part of yourself, what did you bring to that relationship? What, what were you in that relationship? You can think about that. That way there, when you meet someone else in another relationship, you will have changed that part about yourself. You see, it's all self-work, okay? It's all self-examination and self-analysis. You don't need to be a psychologist to do this. All you need to do is reflect back and think about the person you were in that relationship. And it does take, a lot of deep thinking to think, what kind of person was I in that relationship? Because when I don't want to go forward and keep making those same mistakes, and I have to change something about myself. I have to change something about me so that when I go on to meet someone else, I'm not that same person, okay, that I was in the relationship, in the last relationship. So like with my mother, for instance, I didn't speak up enough and set boundaries with my mother. Now, I couldn't do that as a little child, but I could have done that as an adult. I could have set boundaries with my mother, and I never did. I never set boundaries with anyone. I didn't set boundaries with gal pals, girlfriends. I didn't set boundaries with psychologists that sexually abused me, and there were a couple of them that sexually abused me. Dr. Richard Geist, Dr. James Barberia, and I did videos about them. So I reflected. I looked at who was I? What did I bring to this relationship? That, I keep bringing the same person, the same version of myself over and over and over again. And it was, I didn't know personal boundaries. That was it. So now, moving forward, I, have developed very healthy boundaries, Now, I won't, let someone walk all over me. I know when to say no. I know when to, put the wall up and say, you stay over there, I'm over here. No, you can't touch me, No, I don't owe you this, or no, I don't owe you my time. No, I don't, you see, I put up boundaries now. I'm a bounded person. So going forward into, if I have another relationship, I've changed that aspect of myself, so I will bring the new version of me to other relationships. And so, you know, I put closure on the old me that was stuck in these old relationships, by doing self-reflecting, by reflecting on myself. So now I would never let a psychologist or another man, ever touch me. I would never do that. I would walk out, you know. I would never let anyone infringe on my time. If I'm busy and someone calls, I'd say, I'm sorry, I can't do that today. Um, no, you can't bring your sister over. I'm very tired, I've worked all day. I'm not up to entertaining you and your sister. No, you can't. So now um, I've changed, I'm no longer the person I was in these old relationships. See what I'm saying? And you can do the same thing too. If I can do it, you can do it. So you can bring closure and not repeat the same patterns in all, because you will see the same pattern. I'll find my mother and my psychologist in other relationships out there, in other people, okay? Because I will be drawn to that. Because of my traumatic and abusive childhood, I will be automatically drawn to narcissistic people, all right? So I will see my mother in other people, and I have. So this is a very important lesson that I've learned going forward in life, and that's how I found closure, and I come to peace with it. Like with my cousin, I've come to peace, and then I release the rage in my gut, because your gut holds, all your trauma, your anger, your rage. If you don't, come to terms with that, you're going to get physically sick, you're going to get mentally sick. It's going to like eat away at you. But I've come to terms with that, through analyzing myself, how the person I was in those relationships, what I was bringing to those relationships. Now I'm a different person, thankfully. Um, I don't, I'm very careful, who I associate with. I won't associate with anyone critical, because my mother was very critical of me. Now, when someone is critical and criticizes me or gives me their offhanded advice that I didn't ask for, now I see a red flag in front of me, and I say, I don't choose to go there. I choose me over them. I choose me. Always choose yourself, okay, over the other person. Don't compromise yourself. Always choose you. Now I choose me, and as soon as I see those things, because I'm very aware, where before I was not aware. I'm also very aware of the things I say now, where I never was. I used to be very impulsive and just, blabber whatever was on my mind, whatever was in my head at the moment, or whatever way I felt, I just, blabbered that out. But now I knew that I've hurt a lot of people by doing that, by thinking without speaking. So I can't repair those relationships that are gone because I said something very hurtful and unkind to people. I cannot repair them, but I can bring closure to them. See, I don't have to repair a relationship to bring closure to the relationship. How I bring closure to the relationship is by realizing my role, who I was in that relationship, and changing it going forward. That's how I bring closure to that relationship. So I say, okay, I wasn't respectful or kind to the person. Now I think about what I say. I just don't say anything. I stop, take a breath, pause, and think what I'm going to say to this person. Is it going to hurt them? Is it mean? Is it critical? Do I need to say it? Is it necessary for me to say it? Is it going to hurt the other person? I think now. I ask myself these questions before I speak. So now I come with a new version of me. And going forward, I don't keep falling into the same old patterns. You see what I'm saying? So this is how I find closure within myself in those past relationships that, where the rupture was not repaired. Because you can't always repair ruptures, but you can find closure and forgiveness, even when the person doesn't ask for closure or forgiveness. Even if they don't ask for forgiveness, you can still forgive the other person because it's all about you, at the end of the day, not about them. It's about you. Okay, remember that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you found closure with when relationships went bad for you. And let's just keep communicating. I've got new subscribers here on my channel. Some of them are buying my books, and I'm loving it. I love your comments. Keep commenting. Links to the books below. And have an awesome rest of your day.